Okay, perfect.
Make sure I'm on good behavior.
So how long have you worked for eBay?
So I am coming up on 3.5 years.
Awesome. And if you wouldn't mind, could you describe your role and a little bit about the team structure?
Sure. So I am the global head of university and recruiting and programs for eBay. And I sit in the San Jose or the Bay Area office, which is our headquarters. And my team is comprised of recruiters, sourcers, programs people, and then also coordinators as well for the interview scheduling. The role of our team is to bring in and infuse eBay's talent base with early and career talent. So whether that be through the intern program or through our recent college graduate program, bringing in early in career talent, those that are typically, I would say, 0 to 3 years of experience, if they're a bachelor's or a master's, and then also, 3 to 5 years experience if they're MBAs.
Okay, awesome. So what
Yeah.
would you say are your favorite parts about your role?
Gosh, I mean, I definitely think it's the people. The people on my team, my teammates are incredibly talented individuals that bring something new to the table every day. I always tell my team that I am only as good of a leader as they are good individually on our team and the roles and responsibilities that each of them hold. So I think there's that aspect of it as well, Emily, alongside the population that we get to engage with on a daily basis, looking for candidates to fill our roles. If it's somebody that's a bachelor's or a master's candidate, looking to be in technology, is there a right opportunity for them here to explore? Obviously, our interns being able to convert them into full-time roles is really exciting, is a favorite part. And then ultimately also watching this early in career talent population come in, do really, really well, and then get promoted into another role as well within our company, I would say is equally my favorite. So I've got a couple of different components to that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm sure watching them grow as you welcome them into the company, I'm sure that's really rewarding.
Yeah, it is. I have nothing to do with that part. That's all them, but it's definitely I feel like we're doing something right when we see that as
Yeah,
a team.
good. So can you share a little bit about your educational background and some of your previous work experiences and how that led you to where you are now?
Sure. So I did my undergrad at Boston College, did it in, I think it was political science and sociology, if I remember correctly. Um, and absolutely loved it. I started my career in commercial banking. It's what my family had done. And so it seemed like the right path to go. Was able to utilize my ability to speak Japanese to cater to the international community that was in Boston in the area that our commercial banks were at. Over the years had sought out different roles and transferred over to investment banking, um, and then eventually traveled out to California with the same company within investment banking and had done that for quite a few years. As an employee at that time, I wasn't able to connect with anybody in human resources or on the people team. I had questions about my benefits that I had to call an 800 number. It took days for anybody to get a hold of me. And I think as an employee at that point, I had sort of this revelation of I can do better than whoever it was on the other end of the email, the other
Right.
end of the phone call. I couldn't focus on my work because I had these personal things that I needed to get done with
Okay.
my employer that I couldn't get answers to in a timely manner. So, I had sort of made a decision in my mind. I was like, wow, I wonder what this industry is on the human resources side because I feel like I can do better. As I networked with individuals across the board, internally, externally, the constant message at that time was you either need to have prior work experience in HR to have an HR role in that company or you needed a degree. Clearly, I didn't have any prior experience in HR. And so I thought, okay, well, I might as well go back and get another degree. Went back and got my MBA from San Francisco State University up here in the Bay Area and focused on international human resources. And so learned a lot from there. And from graduating from there, was given an opportunity. I worked in retail for a little bit because I graduated right around 9/11. with my MBA, and then eventually got an opportunity to be part of an organization that had everything from professional recruiting, college recruiting at the time, EEO, affirmative action. So I had a boss that kind of covered everything, and I worked for him for a couple years. And then under his wing was college recruiting, and I was like, well, how interesting is that? Less tainted individuals, looking to get into a career. And so I started out as a coordinator for that team, and then slowly moved my way into a recruiting role, and had been in a recruiting role for many years before I was given the opportunity to be a manager for, university recruiting or college recruiting function. So been in this manager role for probably more years than I'd like to count, but absolutely loving it. Like, this is my sweet spot. This is where I want to be. This is the type of audience I, choose to work with. And, if you think back to the reason I went into HR, whether it's myself individually or my teammates, we're making a difference, right? We're making somebody else's, we're giving opportunity to individuals to start their career if they're earlier in their career. But if they're a master's or an MBA or a PhD, we're connecting them with super smart individuals that work for, you can insert company name, any company that I've been at, and then watching them grow, right? And so I've kind of taken a little bit of a journey, but I've always had really, really great managers that have guided me to be where I am today. So I'm internally grateful for that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think this is probably like one of my favorite questions that I ask, because sometimes when people come right out of college, they know exactly what they want to do and they stay in that type of position for a long time. And then other times it's like experiences that you have personally lead you to open different doors. So
absolutely. And I think there are different majors, to your point, Emily, right? I think if somebody comes out as an accounting major, I mean, they're prepped for that career, right? And I think what industry you do accounting in may change, but you don't see as many folks that are coming out with accounting degrees go into human resources, as an example, right? And so I think, a major like myself that I got, is so broad that I think you could, but now, when I stop and think back about what I did in undergrad, I didn't know what I wanted to do coming out of school. I wasn't, again, I didn't have my heart set on being on accounting or education or whatever it might be. And so looking back on it now, and some of the, learnings I had, sociology and political science, maybe not so much the political science piece, but sociology, I mean, the art of people, right? Totally leads into what I do today, right? And then I had to get other layers of education on top of that in terms of organizational development. And as I started to dive a little bit deeper into the human resource field, compensation, I like it. I don't want to be on that team. I'm not good at that. Those are your numbers, folks. Benefits. I like having benefits. I partner really well with the benefits team. That's just not an area that to me, it's so complicated, and that I don't have the desire really to want to learn it, right? And so for me, it's the people aspect and bringing people on board and making sure that they're connected with the right people. Again, a little bit of how I was brought up in this world, in the working world of, giving people opportunity, things that people gave me. They gave me different opportunities to be on different teams or different projects, and guiding them. Like, I feel like it's a little bit of a full circle where I'm now hopefully giving it to candidates that, whether it's myself or the rest of my teammates, encounter.
Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like you've pretty much hit that sweet spot where you are like actually really happy with your job. And
I am. I love it. It's challenging, but I love it for sure.
Yeah. Good. So what would you say are a few factors that differentiate eBay from the other companies that you've worked for?
For me, it's really the people, like, we're not the sexiest company out there. Although I feel like that in itself is being redefined. I think back in the day you had, Google, Facebook, maybe Apple, if you were truly into sort of, that side of technology. I mean, each of them do really, really fascinating things in their own right. So it's two things from me that I feel differentiate eBay. It's the people. The people are innately good at eBay, and not to say that they weren't at others, but it's you see it in the data interaction, you see it in conflict resolution, you see it in just relationship building. Like, you assume good
Yeah.
first, and then you go from there. And I just, the culture of eBay internally and sort of how we're all super supportive resonates really highly with me. The other aspect, of eBay, I think, as a company, is who we cater to from a business perspective and what our platform does. We connect sort of that middle layer of business, the small and middle size businesses that are out there. And I think with coronavirus, you see that amplified even more, where you know you in wherever you might live, there might be a street or two or a block or a neighborhood that are super cute boutique stores that only one of whatever item exists. And with COVID, and you have no customers, then what, right? And so being able to help people like that get their businesses to an online, not only to allow their current customers to be able to shop their product, but what about the other 1 point however many billion that we have on our platform, right?
Yeah.
People that aren't even directly in the neighborhood, people that are out of state, people that are out of country, and allowing trying to create a platform that continues to allow individuals to empower themselves. To
Mm-hmm.
me, if I can be even a small part of that, then I feel like I'm doing good.
Yeah, that's so cool. To your point about like working with good people, I feel like you don't realize how good people can be until you start working with them, and it's just so natural that it's evident how good people can be.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then how much they'll teach you as well, right? Like,
Right.
this whole, with all the crazy that going on with coronavirus and everything else that US has, been working through over the last couple of years, it's really easy to make judgment on other people. And I think internally at eBay, we really, from the tops of the steeples there, are yelling to be like, you need to assume good intent, right? You need to assume that the person at the other end of the conversation has good intent. You may not agree, and that's okay,
Yeah.
but we also don't need to bite our heads off, right? We need to listen. We need to be open to conversation, with hopefully the similar goal of whatever that resolution is to the problem you're trying to solve,
Yeah.
right? And I think at eBay, they really tout that externally and internally. And to me, that's really important.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how would you say that eBay's hiring and onboarding efforts have changed since COVID-19?
Um, the hiring hasn't changed as much. I mean, we still have a ton of folks to hire. I think it's sort of the beauty of being in technology, where we've been remote since probably March of last year. I think I went remote maybe the second week of March, um, along with the rest of my team. I think company-wide, we were probably a quick roll after that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we think of our employees first and foremost, right? I mean, most of us have, either we care for elderly people, we live with elderly people, or, we have, families or neighbors that, are at risk. And so, we've been able to pivot pretty effectively, I think, to a virtual format. For recruiting, we've always done things over Zoom or, whatever platform we use for our interviews. So that hasn't been an issue. I think the hardest part, Emily, maybe not so much for interns, because their graduation date is still, a little bit farther out, but for those that we bring on board as recent college graduates, the inability, to really experience the culture of a campus, being on campus. And I
Right.
feel like students feel that anyway, right? If they're in remote, they're missing out on walking to the cafeteria and finding friends, or, hey, can I come sit with you guys? Or like that socialness, I think, is definitely missing.
Yeah.
And I think the only saving grace is that we will get out of this at some point, right? It is not going to be like this forever. Like, we will be okay. So from an onboarding perspective, I think us as a company is pivoted really seamlessly, for a lack of a better term. A little bit more work on our IT side because we have to ship everything out. But from a programmatic standpoint, we pivoted pretty quickly with our intern program last year. We're almost doubling the amount of interns that we have this year. So in a virtual format as well. So different types of activities, trying to, make sure that we're engaged with our early and career talent population holistically. But overall for eBay, I mean, we've hired so many people, not just my group, but in general. into eBay since coronavirus, and we chuckle about it and say we've hired so many and not one of these people have set foot on an eBay campus, right?
That's crazy.
The work, productivity levels have gone up. I think people are having to be a way more creative in terms of how they get work done. Me as a leader, I'm trying to be way more accepting and creative in terms of how my team gets their work done. And it doesn't always have to be because we are in the office. So I would say that, that our population that we look to bring in and or that we've brought in across the board have proven to be super resilient. And then us as leaders, just constantly are focused on making sure we're checking in with our team, that they're finding the balance that is necessary with each individual, because every individual's scenario is different.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a different experience, but you can definitely still benefit from it. And it sounds like you guys have done great with productivity levels and engaging with your employees. So that's really good.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the internship programs. Can you talk a little bit more about what those programs look like and how students can benefit from getting an internship with this organization?
So we use our intern program as a direct pipeline to full-time hiring. So it's the main method that we make full-time regular hiring in the entry level or the early in career band, I guess we would say, in any role, whether it be engineering, product management, operations, marketing, finance. So we heavily utilize this opportunity over the summer to not only evaluate individuals that we might consider from a full-time component, but also to have them evaluate us to see if, we truly are who they think we are, and if they're supportive of it and they think that they have the ability to grow in that or in this organization. And so, I think from a programmatic standpoint, not much has changed from our core initiatives. Every year we, on the intern side, we change it up to be, the content of it to be a little bit different, but ultimately focusing on, learning. So learning about the different businesses. So no matter what organization you sit in, you're learning about all the different aspects that make up eBay. And then also visibility to leaders, right? And giving them an opportunity to have a voice and have a seat at the table, whether it be talking to the head of marketing and some of their marketing initiatives that might, they might be working on, whether it's talking to product and saying, using the interns that we have in as a user group, right? To say, this is what we're thinking, this is how we're thinking of advertising it, launching it, this is what the home screen looks like if we've got a new product, what do you think? Right? Yeah. So I think from a candidate perspective, it's a unique opportunity to take part in shaping, who eBay will continue to be. We've been around for 25 years, right? And so who will continue to be and the relevance that will continue to play sort of in the e-commerce market. So I think from an intern perspective, even as a recent college graduate, it's a unique opportunity to have a voice. And we're sort of that mid-sized company where you do have a voice. Your opinion does matter. And we, on the programmatic side on my team, we just make sure that those that are coming in as interns or recent college graduates understand how to connect with people in order to have a voice, right? Yeah. So whether it be leaders, whether it be certain projects, giving them enough information across the board so that they're able to make decisions on where to push their career. So for us, I think it's a really unique opportunity to be able to come in to try and make a difference. And then if you think about our goal and our purpose as a company, hopefully the work that these individuals are coming in to do, they have the ability to tie in how that makes a difference for the buyers and sellers on our platform.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting that you guys truly value the input of your interns and recent graduates, because sometimes with bigger name companies, they can kind of get lost in there. So I think that's really special.
Yep.
So what are a few qualities that you look for when you're recruiting students? And what's something that separates one candidate from the rest of them?
So it depends on the role, Emily, that we're recruiting for. If it's a software engineering role, we're looking for core computer science fundamental mastery, right? Or if you're an intern on the way to mastery, depending on what year you are in school. So you've got data structures, algorithms, problem solving, coding skills for those roles. And then, for our other roles, some sort of passion around e-commerce is always helpful, understanding e-commerce as well. For our marketing roles, social media marketing, marketing analytics, those types of roles, garner those skill sets. But I would say overall, I mean, we target or reach out to pretty much every school across the US for our US opportunities. We've got roles in Europe, we've got roles in China as well, and each of those segments kind of recruit a little bit differently. But the majority of our roles, I would say across the board, tend to be engineering for us. That's the bulk of our employee base. So core computer science fundamentals there. On the non-engineering side, again, it's just going to depend. We've got a bunch of finance roles, that we just filled, but again, looking for people in finance, accounting, people that can come into sort of a rotational development program full-time, and garner all those skills. Again, we're looking for just initiative, people that want to be in this industry, understand what eBay is, understand who our competitors are. If they get into an interview, be cognizant of a lot of that. Coming in blindly and saying, well, I just want a job isn't going to cut it. You could be the smartest individual out there, but you have to have a passion and a knowledge about our business at a minimum scale to be able to have that conversation. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for sharing that. So if you were to look back at your college self and know everything that you know now, what advice would you give about internships or navigating your first career, professional development, networking, anything like that? What's one thing that you wish you knew?
Gosh, without dating myself, my career services sucked when I was back in the day. And so I think students coming out today, majority of the schools, the career services and the career service advisors are there for a reason, and leverage them. They tend to be pretty connected to us in the business and what we're looking for in timelines. And don't be afraid. And I think going into every opportunity with a huge amount of willingness to learn is going to pay off, right? Every company does things a little bit differently, no matter if the roles seem to be the same. And so what I would encourage my old self is, and I did internships sort of in a little bit of a different format and capacity, but the whole point was to learn what you like and what you don't like. You by doing an internship, you're sort of creating this tally card for yourself. These are the things that I like. These are the industries that are like, oh my gosh, my manager is great. What are the qualities that I feel make that person great, right? So that when you start to look for employment, you're going to get a lot of different job offers, but then go back to your tally card and say, what's important to me is this. What's important to me is that. A common conversation I have with candidates, not as much now, but I would say over the last couple of years, is, Cindy, I'm grateful for the offer at eBay, but I also have an offer from Google and Facebook and blah, blah, blah. And at Google and Facebook, they give me free food and, this, that, or the other. And at the end of the day, great. Emily, if that is what is on your scorecard of what's important, absolutely go there. Right. As much as I would want you here, you would be miserable coming to eBay because we don't have free food. Right. And so the components are different. And so I think a lot of it is just, is compensation your top and most part of your number one of what a company needs to offer you, then fine. Then figure out which gives you the most compensation, right? But going the back and forth of trying to negotiate and all of that starts to make a recruiter unsure of whether or not they want you here. Yeah. And so I think it's, depending on where you are in your career, be cognizant of what the market is doing, do your research, network, and then go in all in. Whatever it is that you decide, go in all in and be that sponge to learn from your peers, to learn from the company, so that you are continuously adding to that tool belt of skills, right? And that's what I ended up doing is, I was in investment banking. I look back on it now and think, why? But I learned a couple of things. I learned ability to operationalize. I learned ability, to sort of build relationships, because I needed to get information from different teams in order to get my work done, right? Early in my career. And those skill sets are really important to the role that I'm in now, right? And just keep building on that until you figure out what it is. And at the end of the day, when you land a job, It's going to be awesome no matter what industry you're in. But keep your blinders off, right? When somebody says, hey, Cindy, I think, you've got this, that, and that skill. I think you could be good on this project as well as doing your day job. Take the opportunity.
Yeah.
Don't ever say no, because you want to be able to keep your options open as it relates to your learning.
Yeah, you never know where one experience could lead you, and every experience is going to teach you something valuable. You just have to have a learning mindset.
Exactly.
Well, that was well said. That was great advice. Thank you so much. So switching over to your relationship with Grad Leaders a little bit, what are some of the main things that you are trying to achieve with this partnership? What made you guys choose to work with Grad Leaders?
So one of the main reasons I had looked at Grad Leaders, well, first of all, I've known Amy forever. And so, and sort of we had the same mindset in terms of, what her as a vendor might offer versus what our needs are. Ultimately, with Grad Leaders, I was looking at an opportunity to have sort of a one-stop shop for predominantly MBA candidates. I know Grad Leaders does more than that, but I didn't have a tool in my back pocket of aggregating MBA candidates, job postings, et cetera. And so that's why I had reached out to Grad Leaders to sort of fulfill that as a sourcing platform for me. And it's been, it's been working well. We probably don't use Grad Leaders maybe as much as a lot of our peers do, solely because our numbers for MBA hiring isn't as large, although part of the reason of tapping into Amy was my MBA ask doubled from last year. And so rather than go to each school individually, it was just more sense to sort of have it aggregated, but also the partner with Forte and Consortium that funnels through Grad Leaders as well. Again, I have a very small team, and so having sort of one platform that can accommodate all of that for us was really important.
Right. It's much more effective, easier.
Yep. Good.
Well, that's pretty much all of the questions that I have for you. Was there anything else you wanted to add about eBay, Grad Leaders, anything at all?
No, I think I'm good. Lots of good questions.
Good. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to help us out.
You're very welcome, Emily. You know how to reach me. So if anything else comes up, just holler.
Okay, will do. Thank you so much.
All right. Talk to you soon. Have a good one, Emily. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.